Today was supposed to be a good day, but this video took a turn. I was intending to go out here and practice some backwards flying. So, you know, fly and then go backwards and all these things. I was actually out here yesterday trying the same thing, but I couldn't really make it work. But instead, this video is going to take another direction because I smashed my quad. It's not working anymore. So before I do the rest of the video, I just want to tell you what it's going to be about. It's going to be tips and tricks, but I see a lot of people asking for advice in terms of what quad should I buy, what remote controller should I buy. I'm not going to touch any of that because honestly, you can't go wrong today. I mean, you can pick something that's worse, but anything you pick is going to be fine. It's not like when I started a lot of years ago and there was something that really didn't work and something that actually did work. So pick whatever you want, get your advice from forums and so on. However, there are some universal tips and tricks that I feel that everybody can use. And these don't necessarily pertain to what quad you select, ESC you select, and so on and so forth. So in this video, I'm gonna do that. But first, have a look at the crash and let's start from there. That's my first tip of the day, and I didn't plan for it. It was a bad fuck up on my part, but nonetheless, it's actually a thing that happens. So I was just taking off, just practicing some stuff. I could hear suddenly a lot of people talking, and I see like, I don't know, 8,000 people over there. I'm sitting here flying, they're over there walking. I'm just thinking, I'll give them a show, you know, because I think everybody does that. I think we all do that. But at the same time, this whole square belongs to the flying field. So I made sure I stayed inside, and I didn't want to get close to them in the sense I didn't want to fly over them, for instance. As you can see on the video, I didn't account for how heavy this was. And I actually thought I had it. I still don't know why I didn't make it. But I punched down in the grass so hard that something didn't work when it bounced up again. One of the motors, one of the propellers, something, I have to check it now. And then it flew sideways, so I just disarmed it in the air because I was thinking about these guys. And it actually landed here. Now I'm sitting over there, it landed here, and it impacted all the way over there by the grass. So the first tip is, no matter how batshit crazy good you think you are, you're not. Accidents happen. You always think that you have something under control, and the second that you actually don't have something under control, it could be your fault, it could be a motor, it could be a propeller, it could be wind gust, it could be anything. Just don't fly near other people. What I did over there, I would probably do it again because I feel in control and I didn't feel I was doing something towards them. But after this experience, if it can jump from over there all the way here, it could have bounced the other way as well. It could have hit like 6 or 7 kids. So yeah, the first tip is, you might be getting better, but accidents can and will happen. Now, the second thing, you need to get a buzzer. So in here, sandwiched between the camera and the flight controller in this little red box I printed, I have a very, very small buzzer. The idea behind this buzzer is that it has its own battery power, which is super important. So what I do when I use this, so I hold the button down for 5 seconds, and now it's armed. Now, when it's armed, it's just gonna beep like that. Keep on beeping until at some point I take off. Now we're flying. It notices that I'm flying and it doesn't beep. When I then crash, when it notices something hard, it goes into a 30-second mode where it beeps, and after 30 seconds, it sounds like this. So let's just turn that off again, holding down 5 seconds. And now it's off. Now, this can run on its own power like that, beeping at 100 dB, plus it's flashing a very strong LED light if it's dark outside, which it detects by itself, but it can do this for 10 hours. And I cannot stress how important that is, because I've flown quite a lot by now, and stuff like this doesn't seem like it's dangerous. But watch as we approach it, and the quad actually crashes. Where is it? I just threw it in there right now, but if I was actually flying, let's say up here and looking down at this, then this is a sensation that you're not used to as a people. Nice. This is something you're not used to as a person, because we're used to watching everything like this horizontally. When you're flying over something, you tend to misjudge everything. So if I had crashed over here, I would walk over here and look this way and go like, huh, I wonder where it is. And that's just the first step, because where I think it is, which is right here, it's not necessarily where it's actually going down. It could land and bounce and go all the way over there and down in that shrubbery over there. And it's really not fun finding your quad, because there is a very good chance you won't be able to find it. For that reason, I have begun flying with a buzzer always. And I really suggest that it's something you look into as well, because it just makes sense. Look at how dense this stuff is. If it goes in here, it will close the hole, and all of these things are stuff that burns. I don't know what the English word is, probably hell plants. But if it goes in there, you will have to actually go through all of it in order to find it. With this, you can just go, it's down there. So definitely get a buzzer. Next up is Lipo Straps. Now, Lipo straps can be gotten in many forms. I see that there are some ethics ones out which are plastic, and this is what Mr. Steel uses. But I have a background in engineering and plastics, and I would never trust a plastic Lipo buckle. The reason being that when you crash, this is the weak part, the buckle. If you have a plastic buckle, you could have crashed a few times before, and this makes the buckle go crazy in the sense that it could split open at any time. You might not be able to see it. When that happens, when you crash like this, for instance, it could snap, it could propel your battery into the back of your GoPro and smash it. It could also just eject the battery, as it happened for me like a few days ago, and I still haven't found that battery. It's just gone. The idea behind using a metal buckle is that if you can see that the metal buckle has taken damage, you know that it's not safe anymore, and you can actually exchange it. But I have never, so far, I know other people have, I've never had a crash with a metal buckle where I couldn't find my battery because the buckle had exploded on impact. I know some other people that have tried that, but in those situations they crash so hard that their arm was also ripped off and so on. So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about just ordinary crashes, just ordinary. I'm trying to practice. I didn't crash that hard. But ejecting your battery is super hard to find. If you think it's hard to find a quad, try looking for a, let's say, a black battery like the ones I have in something like this. So Lipo straps, metal buckle, super important. Another thing that people tend to forget when they're putting together their quad for the first time is the positioning of everything. So in this case, I have my power wire right here coming out from the back, and once I plug this in, these two become like so rigid that they actually cannot go down and touch the propellers. I also, if you see here, have this small strip, or whatever you call it, which is kind of holding my antennas in place, so they have a very hard time bending down to the propellers. That's also super important, because when you crash, it's gonna flip, and if it's gonna flip, it's gonna lean on the cables and the antennas. If you don't make sure that your cables and antennas cannot bend down to the props, or at least have a hard time doing so, you're gonna snip them. You're just gonna cut them open with your propellers. And it's something that we've all tried, and it sucks so hard to crash, only to find out that your antenna was cut in half. So, position and placement of wires. A crash can be many things. So a crash can be a showstopper, meaning that you crash, you take off your glasses, you go and look for the quad. But a crash can also be, I hit a branch and I keep on flying, or I just grazed the ground and I keep on flying. Now, in the beginning, it's very easy to hit something and just panic, give it throttle, and suddenly you're up in the air and you go like, I made it, that's fine. Experience tells me, and a lot of other people who have tried this before, that if you hit something, you kind of, unless you really know what you're doing, and unless you're really in tune with your quad and you know what the weight of it is, you have to land and check it. The other day I flew and I actually ripped this apart. I made a video about it as well, but this TPU mount got ripped in half. So what happened was that I was flying and I hit a leaf from a tree, and that leaf stuck on my FPV lens, which means that when I was flying I couldn't see anything. All of a sudden the leaf was gone and I was in the air, and I was like, this is really good. What I didn't know is that in the time that the leaf blocked, I'd actually hit the ground so hard that I had ripped the TPU in half and ejected my GoPro. So I kept on flying, and then I hit a branch somewhere else, and then I hit something else, and I was like, yes, I'm the man, never disarm, and I landed my quad, and my GoPro was gone. And this means that I don't have a buzzer for my GoPro, So suddenly I was forced to look in a space that was almost twice as big as this, which is down there somewhere, for a GoPro that I actually didn't know when I lost. So whenever you hit something, and especially if your quad feels weird, land right away. But if you hit something, it's really a good idea to just check up on it. It could be you lost an antenna and you don't know where it is if you keep on flying. It could be that you cut a wire or you did something else nasty. So just land and check it out. In general, when people try to fly for the first few times, more often than not, I see in the forums that they're talking about finding a spot like this, big open spot with nothing around. It's not the best idea. What you want to do is not take off in a place like this and just go up, because unless you've practiced in a sim heavily, you don't have an idea of spatial awareness. You don't know how far something is from something else. What I suggest instead, and what I actually did with one of my friends when he wanted to fly for the first time, is that we went here and we put down a chair here and a chair over there. So I had him put his quad by this one chair here and look at the other one. Then I made sure that his camera angle, you see my camera angle here is only 25 degrees because that's what I like. But this means that my quad has to be angled like this in order to fly straight. His camera angle was 10 or something like that. So he only has to fly like this, which means that he has lower speed when he's looking straight ahead. So with a low camera angle, he took off and I asked him to simply keep the opposite chair in view at all times. Make sure that that opposite chair was always in the bottom half of the picture and as centered as he could. And then he flew towards it because he's looking at it. Once he got to it, he turned around and then he was facing the other chair. And after doing this for, I don't know, 2 packs, then all of a sudden he began to understand the idea of flying a quad as, you know, you have to steer towards something. We always steer towards something. Nobody flies after nothing. So that's only in the beginning. So having something to look at while you're flying, and preferably 2 things so that you can look at one, fly to that, turn around, and look at the other and fly to that and turn around, is a really, really good start for anybody trying to get into this hobby, because it will limit you so that you don't all of a sudden look at that tree over there and then you angle up and you see the sky and you just go like, oh, that's okay, because, and then suddenly you're over there somewhere. If you have to keep stuff in view, you know where you are in space. So I think that's a really good practice, and I hope this is the way you're gonna try your first flight if you're that new. The final thing I want to talk about today is propellers. And this is my personal conviction, but I see a lot of people recommending propellers on forums, and most people are recommending newbies to actually go with dowel props or something super durable. I think this is a super bad idea. If you pick a super durable prop, what's going to happen is that when that prop hits a wall or a tree or something hard, it's going to transfer that blow onto the motor. And what's more expensive, a motor or a prop? Also, I would say that durable props for somebody completely new are way more dangerous, because it can potentially just plow through a tree and onto, people. There's some safety knowing that your propeller breaks if you do something stupid. But the other reason that I wouldn't recommend it is that you can get a durable prop, or you can get a normal, what I would call normal prop, or you can get a prop with a high lift. So for instance, Ethics makes props that are S3 and S4. S4 has a steeper angle, making it give more lift. This is also something I see recommended, because people go like, yeah, but I have this heavy camera on top. What do I do? You just add more lift. It's true, and it works. But at the same time, if you're new to this, my thinking behind it is that you would rather go with a propeller that is as fine-tuned as you can possibly get it. Meaning that if you do take a propeller that has way too much lift, what's going to happen is that you lose out on some resolution. So, for instance, if you have an S3 propeller, this whole motion is available to you because it's a finely balanced prop with not a lot of lift. This means that when you're doing something, you kind of realize what you're doing and when you're doing it at. If you add an S4 propeller to that with more lift, it means that all of this area here becomes smaller, in the sense that you might not be able to control the difference between this and that, but your quad will actually accelerate much, much faster. So you're going to lose some fidelity to it. It's going to make it harder for you to learn, because everything you do is going to be translated into being more violent in a sense. So just a little tap on the throttle is going to be, just go away. For that reason, I would recommend you start with a prop like the Ethics S3, because those are, as far as I can tell, based or the same as HQ's old, what was it, 5040 props, I don't remember, but it's based on that propeller, which is a very run-of-the-mill, straight in the middle propeller that has enough lift but not too much. It has a lot of durability but not too much, and I think that for somebody starting out, it will always be better to be able to feel the quad as precisely as possible, meaning that you take a good propeller that isn't colored in a way. So colored meaning too durable and flies awkwardly, or too colored meaning that it doesn't have so much lift that it flies weirdly. So yeah, that's about it. I'm gonna go home and wait for my ESCs to be mailed to me, and next time I see a big crowd of people, I'm just gonna wave at them. I'm not gonna do the dive thing because that kind of sucked. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I hope that some of you new guys actually can use this for something.